Hi guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this episode, I want to do a property focus, and a bit of a niche question, I guess, is how much rent should I charge? There's a lot of people going out there overcharging and undercharging, and yes, there is such thing as overcharging your rent. And I want to cover exactly what you should be charging to make sure you're being fair, getting a long-term tenant, and of course, making as much money that stays in your bank and not somebody else's. For those that don't know me, my name's Jamie York, and over the last decade or close to a decade, I've been investing in property and building a portfolio. And in the last few months, what I've started doing is building up this channel to share the knowledge that I've implemented in my business in the hope that you can take advantage of it and start making more money moving forward. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, make sure to hit the like button and of course subscribe to this channel to make sure you're the first to get notified about these videos as they come out. Okay, so how much should we charge moving forward? Well, number one is how much do you need to charge? Now, this might sound really obvious, which is like, well, I want to charge as much as possible, but no. Before you even look at purchasing an investment, it's what do you need to charge to keep other stakeholders happy? So a stakeholder in any business is who benefits, who is impacted by your decisions in a business. Namely, there's you, the investor, the person you're buying the property from, the person that's renting it, maybe the team that's doing the refurb. And what I'm talking about is right in the middle, who's giving you the money. Now, one of the biggest benefits of investing in property is, of course, leverage, safe leverage, okay? i.e. a mortgage. So most of the time, people are going to be lending around 75% of the value of the property. Okay, now what the mortgage company wants to do is they want to give out that money because they're going to make money by you paying that, but they need to make sure it's getting a safe return. So there's something when a mortgage company lends money out called rental coverage. Now, I'm not going to go into the technicalities. It changes over time. Most people used to lend in a personal name. Now they're lending in limited companies for tax reasons. But the easy way of thinking about this is 150% coverage on 5%. And what we're going to do is put something up here to break down the numbers as I go through them. Okay, let's make this easy. If you are going to lend 100,000, okay, £100,000 represents 75% of the value, whatever that is. Let's say it's 135 grand purchase. There's going to be around 100,000 getting lent to you. Okay, so if somebody's going to give you £100,000, we need to work out how much the rent needs to be to make sure you're safe. The best way of doing this is assume a 5% interest rate. This doesn't matter if you're paying right now 1.6 or 1.2 or 2.4%. Assume 5%, okay? Interest rates fluctuate, and if you're anything like me, you're buying a buy-to-let for life. So it's going to average out as about 5% over the long term, and I think it's a good number to be safe. So 5% of 100,000 is £5,000. So 5,000. That's what you need to cover in a year. And then what you're going to do is have a coverage. How many times over does your rent cover your mortgage payments? Okay, now some people do 125%, some people do 130. These are lenders. Some people do 140. I always apply 150%. Okay, so 1.5. If you've got £5,000 times that by 1.5, you've got 7,500. And then if you've got that 7,500 and you divide that by 12, whatever that comes out as, let's say it's 675. I'm sure Alex will tell me if I'm wrong in the sign here. So £675. That is what you need to rent it out to even start looking at what you want to make in the first place. So number two is comparables. And what we're going to be looking at is the likeliness and the quality of their property versus yours. So if you don't know, a comparable is you comparing yours against theirs. So you don't get to make the rules a lot. You need to see what's already on the market. So let's say there's another property on the market that's gone out to rent, and that's rented for £750. Your property is a 3-bed mid-terrace. Theirs is a 3-bed mid-terrace. So first of all, we need to make sure they're like for like, okay? A lot of people go, oh yeah, I've got this comparable, and it's a 3-bed semi-detached with a huge amount of land to the side and back of it. That is not a direct comparable. That is going to impact both the value of the property and, of course, what somebody's willing to pay for the rent. Because naturally, if you've got more land, if you've got kids, that's going to be great. Maybe if you've got a dog, that's going to be great, etc. Okay, so is it like for like? let's say yes, 3-bed and 3-bed. Now, do they match the same quality? Are you fully refurbishing a property so it's going to be spanking new and theirs is needs a bit of a tart up? Or is theirs brand spanking new and actually yours needs a bit of a tart up? You're not going to get the same amount of rent. Okay, there's probably going to be a variable of around £100 up to £100 variable based on the quality. So personally, when I'm buying a refurbishment, once a tenant moves out, I like doing a proper refurb on it so I'm getting the best quality tenant for a long time. So like for like comparables. Number 3, and this is seen less and less, but are you furnishing your property or not? That's going to dictate a couple of things. So first of all, the reason why you see it less and less now is because of Section 24. This is not the video about it, but essentially it's a tax on landlords that own properties in their personal name. Pretty much everyone 5, 6, 7 years ago owned properties in their personal name because it made good sense tax-wise. Most people are transferring those over and are now purchasing in a limited company. I am not a financial advisor or an accountant, so go to them and get your own personal advice. But people would furnish properties if it was in a personal name because you had something called a wear and tear allowance of, I think it was 15%, which means that your profit could be offset against that. So people were putting in cheap furniture tax and writing off a load of tax, okay? So it makes less sense now, but it's still worth covering. If you have a property that is a 3-bed mid-terrace against a 3-bed mid-terrace, they are the same quality, but this one comes furnished, suddenly the amount of people that would want to live in there increases. Okay, so naturally you can probably charge more money for your rent, but we're only usually looking in the remit of another 50 to £75. So something to take account of within that, but most of the time, if you're in a place where your rent is less than £1,000, most of the time on a single buy-to-let, it's not going to make sense to furnish your property. Okay, number 4, and this is one that most people don't think about, is what feels right? What do you think is fair? And I think from an ethical point of view, but let's talk from a business point of view. I think it makes sense sometimes to charge people less rent. Okay, and this really depends on the type of person you're getting, how much they're going to pay up front, and why they're moving into the property. Okay, so let's say, for example, somebody is moving into your property, they've just got a divorce, and they're moving in, they're able to put down 4 weeks deposit. How long is that person likely to be living there? You can't make pure assumptions, but probably less than the person I'm about to describe, okay? If you've got somebody where it's a young family, they've got 2 kids, and they've been looking for the perfect house because it is right next to the school that their kids have just moved into, and they're able to pay 6 months up front because of that, how long are they likely going to be in there? They could move in and move out within a year, but if it's anything like my family, it was a really big deal not moving away from your area whilst you're in school, because as kids, you get your friends, you get used to the surrounding area. So it's quite likely that they are going to be your 3 to 5 plus year tenants. And so for me, if they were moving in, I'd do one of 2 things. I'd either cut down their rent a little bit, or what I say to them is, look, obviously most of the time we do rental increases, but because you're a family moving in here and staying for the long term, as long as you are renewing on a yearly basis, I won't put up your rent at all. The benefit of me is there's no voids, there's no sort of, I need to do this work. They tend to take care of the property themselves. And then what I can do is, if and when they eventually do move out, I'm going to have to go in, do some works anyway, and then I will realign it to the market rent. So a lot of people will say, oh, you're missing out on those 25 quid, 50 quid increases. But actually, if I've got a great paying tenant in there, sometimes it's better just to leave them to it, maybe do it every 5 years or something like that. And whilst your top line turnover might seem lower than some people, I can almost guarantee you your net profit in the bank, which is what you should really care about, will be much higher than the average person. Okay, so now that you've covered all of that and you understand what you can charge, how much you must charge, and what feels fair, I think it's really important to, as your final thing, do a portfolio review. But only do this last. Okay, and I'm going to explain why. Those first 4, make sure that you have covered the buy-to-let basics. Okay, now that you've got those basics and it works on that, then I do a portfolio review to how much can I charge. So I'm going to give some examples of what I'm going to look at right now. So can I add an additional bedroom? Does it have a lounge and a dining room? Can it be a minimo, which is a house of multiple occupancy? So you're renting the room instead of the house, so you can tend to make more money. Is there a garage that you can rent out if you're in a high value area? Is the type of property perfect for some sort of social housing? So social housing goes all the way from Serco, which is a company that assists people that are coming over and need a place to stay. You'll usually get around 150%, so 1.5 times your rent, all the way up to really solid assisted living contracts. So a friend of mine, for example, has got a 3-bed bungalow in Wakefield, and he could rent it out on a buy-to-let at £850 per month, which is great. It worked on that. However, there were some severely autistic and severely disabled individuals that needed assisted living. So he spent the extra, I think it was 18 grand, which the government helped with a grant, kitting it out for disabled individuals, and is now getting paid £600 per week per room. So that property suddenly gone from 10,000, 11,000 a year to 55 to 60,000 a year. Okay. Just by thinking outside of the box, okay? The people that make the most money in business and the most money in property don't just focus on more. They take the time to sharpen the axe, measure twice, cut once, and think strategically about how you're moving forward and looking at the same asset from a different viewpoint. Okay, think about when you've listened to a video and you walk down the street and suddenly you look at a property and realize it's the only one that hasn't gone into the loft on the street. You start seeing things from a different angle, you start thinking strategically, and often the more you can help someone in that bungalow example, the more money you can make in return. So there is a direct payoff for your efforts and your strategy. So I hope that's helped. I hope it's covered some things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of, especially the last one, thinking strategically about who you can help in the right way and how much more money you can make from that. If you have had value, let me know in the comments if you've got any questions around this. And of course, hit the like button. It really does help the YouTube algorithm, my ego, of course, and it really does just help out the growth of this channel. And if you're interested in finding out more about property investment and scaling your businesses, make sure to hit the subscribe button and of course, go across and hit that notification bell to make sure you're notified when the next video comes out. As I said, I've been Jamie York, you've been amazing. Hopefully you've got a load of value and I will see you in the next video. Hi guys, welcome to the YouTube channel, and in this episode I'm gonna start, I went like that. Okay, number four.
Spotty fella.